Mhm.
Hello, welcome once again to Pale Balloons and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Broose Dickinson is an American singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer, artist, and writer who currently resides in Bath, England. He was a co-founding member of frontman of Dallas-based power pop alternative band Pop Poppins. The lineup included Bruce, lead vocals, guitar, Mark Hitri on bass, Mark's brother William Paul Hitri, guitar and vocals, and Michael Jerome on drums. Several albums would be issued during the 1990s. Mr. Dickinson is also an artist and was an artist in residence and board member for the Deep Ellum Center for the Arts, as well as a community member for the Art Landing in Oak Cliff, Texas. From 2000 to 2010, Bruce resided in Splendora, Texas, where he created art and music. Then came the move to Bath, England, where he has exhibited his art throughout the US and Europe. My guest is currently a studio artist at 44 AD Artspace in Bath. Well, welcome, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here and taking time out. Well,
Thanks, Greg.
take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Walnut Creek, California. My father was a professor at University of California, Berkeley at the time,
Okay.
but I don't remember much of it, just a few years.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
we eventually ended up moving to Texas when I was about 10, 11 years old. And so
Okay. Okay.
for the most part, I grew up in Texas. You know,
Okay. All right.
my
You you
what I regard as the informative years, which is teenage years. I grew up
right.
I grew up in
Okay.
Arlington, Texas.
Oh, in Arlington. Okay. Well, do you recall was there music in the household early on? Do you
Nope.
remember? No?
Nope. I had
Okay.
three older brothers, and my mother and father, none of them were artists or musicians. So I
Really?
was
Really?
so
How about
whatever.
your grandparents? Grandparents or other relatives? Sometimes it skips a generation. Yeah.
Not that I know of, but my grandfather, my father's father, was like an
Mhm.
amateur opera singer, and uh,
Oh, okay.
and I actually but he died when my father was 14, so I never knew him. And
Yeah.
but he would do things on radio. They were in Brooklyn. They lived in Brooklyn. My whole family, my mother and father and my three older brothers were all born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And and so my grandfather apparently would do stuff, and they would record the radio broadcasts on vinyl. And so my father, uh, about 30 years ago, or whatever, gave us, me and my brothers, a present of the vinyl. He had it duplicated. So I have the radio show of my grandfather, who I never met because he died before I was born, singing, and
Yeah.
it was really bizarre. And I ended up using it uh, on my album as an individualist. I sang along with him, and on the recording, from the recording, which was pretty weird too, because he was dead, and I was singing
Yeah.
along with it. And
Yeah.
I think I called it "Ode to Natalie Cole" because Natalie Cole, I think, did a recording with her father at that sort
Right.
of thing. So it
Right.
wasn't an original sort of idea for me. It was just a personal sort of strange thing. And the
Yeah.
and the recording itself, I think, was done on Christmas. And it was really bizarre because it was done during the war. It was done during World War II. And so a lot of the songs are like anti-Nazi, anti-Jap, and it was really, really, because when I played it, I wanted to sing along with them a lot. But the only thing I could find, in that wasn't like war oriented and kill them and stuff like, and he was doing it in operatic form, it was weird. That was the only snippet that I could really find uh, to sing along with,
Oh,
that I didn't feel was racist or anything like that.
right. Right. How interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Natalie and Nat doing the recordings together. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the John Lennon, what they did recently with his vocals,
Oh,
you
you
know.
mean where they remix the Beatles
Yeah,
song. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, that's what they can do. That's the upside, I guess you could say, with technology.
Yeah.
There is there there
Yeah,
is a
it's incredibly interesting. It's like
yeah,
bringing times together.
right,
It's
right,
yeah.
yeah. Well, can you recall the first 45 or album that you got?
The first album I bought was the Jacksons' Destiny.
All right.
And that's when I had enough money to buy an album, and they were playing a song on the radio that I liked. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know how you'll know you handle, baby, because I do know that I want you. It was that
Yeah.
song. I can't remember the
Yes.
name of it, but I wanted it, and I'd never bought an album before. And so I went into a mall, paid full price for an album. That was my first album purchase, as a kid. And
Yeah.
prior to that, we had albums in the house that we would get at Kmart on discount for like a dollar.
Yeah.
And a lot of that
Right.
was like Beach Boys, Bachman
Yeah.
Turner Overdrive was another
Yeah.
one. So those the Four Seasons, you know,
Yeah.
and so those were albums that we had and in the house, but
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily my choice.
Your choices.
Even
Yeah.
though
That's
I liked those were the ones that I would listen to on our family vinyl record player.
right. Yeah. The
Uh,
Kmart. That was my. That's where I would pick up a lot of 45s. And
yeah,
I used to live in Tyler before moving to Dallas. And I was like in what 7, 8, 9 years old. Eight. Yeah. About 6, 7, and 8 years old. So we go to Kmart all the time. Wow. How interesting. Well.
Blue Light Specials. Did you have
Yes.
Blue Light Specials?
Yes, they did. Uh, I do remember
Me and my
that.
dad were walking around the store waiting for the Blue Light Special.
Right. Hey, do you remember when I talked to John from Red Rockers about this? Remember on the back of some cereal boxes, they would have 45s? Do you remember that?
And they were they like flimsy vinyl?
Yes. Yes. You'd
Yeah,
have to cut them out and
yeah.
then you try to play them and it was just real wonky. I tried to straighten them out. I remember I got a few of those.
You get a
Yeah.
lot of warbling.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Didn't play real well. Well,
But
well,
but when
go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just when we were talking about earlier influences, it just came to my mind that like when I was 9, 10 years old, I remember being a huge Bay City Rollers fan. So the Bay City Rollers were like my Beatles at that age. And
Yeah.
uh and I had the albums, but I didn't buy them. They were given to me for Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
you
why
have an excuse.
I was just referencing the Jacksons album being the first album I bought.
Right. Right.
I saved money to buy it and stuff.
You went out and yeah, and actually got it. Well, what was the first? Did you learn a musical instrument when you were young?
I didn't. I
Okay.
mean, uh, I mean, when I was 5, 6 years old, I took a piano lesson or two. Aside from that, no. I didn't
Okay.
start playing guitar till I was 17.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was all new to me as well. You know.
Okay. That was just by ear.
And nobody in the family played guitar or anything like that. It just
Okay. Okay.
it
All
was
right.
it was circumstance of I don't know if you want to hear the story or not, but
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I do.
well, when I was 16, this summer, I went to the University of Texas Architecture Academy, which was a pretty big deal for a high school student. And so I went and attended summer school in the same manner that high school students would, or college students would. And the guy across the hall from me played guitar. And I would hear him playing guitar, and I'd go in and sort of watch him playing guitar and stuff like that. And I just thought it was amazing, you know. And he just looked at me and he said, "It's easy." And that's something clicked. And so as soon
Yeah.
as I got back to Arlington, I got back home, my birthday was coming up. And so I got myself a guitar, a little cheap guitar and a cheap amp. And that's how I started. I just started teaching myself. And I would record songs on cassette from the radio and then rewind them to learn the guitar parts. And then they
Oh,
also had those books. They had like Rolling Stones Complete, that would have like little stuff in it. And at the time in high school, I was a huge Rolling Stones fan. That was pretty much the band that I would listen to most of the time, and other
Okay.
60s music. But I mean, even though this is the 80s that I'm talking about, I was still interested in 60s music, as I
Right.
think a lot of kids are now.
Yeah.
It's that's where the interest goes. And all of my kids play instruments and things like that, and they just gravitate towards that and Black Sabbath. And then as it gets later, they like Metallica and all that. And these are kids, you know,
Yeah.
and
How many
that,
how many
that's
kids do you
that's where their interest gravitates.
right? How many kids do you have?
I have a son and daughter that live in France who are now adults, 22 and 24. And then I have a stepson in England who's 20 or
Okay.
21.
So you passed down that
I have three
musical
kids.
gene. Okay. So you passed down that musical gene. Yeah.
And it was easy for them to get advice, you know.
Right. Yes.
So
Right.
that's a big factor. Like I didn't have that growing up. When
Yeah.
I was in my room playing, none of my family played guitar, so I had nobody to turn to. None of my friends played electric guitar, or anything like that. Uh, so I had nobody to turn to. So I think my kids had that, to where they could
Yeah.
just go downstairs and say, I can't find this chord or something, and I could show it to them.
Right. Right. You want to pass on that knowledge to them. Exactly. Exactly.
And I
Well,
never, I never pushed them or anything. They just
yeah.
ended up doing it. I mean, none of
Yeah.
them are artists. I'm an
Right.
artist too. None of them are doing that because there's no glory in being an artist.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
It's got to be.
that's the attraction for the kids. Is the glorification and all that
Sure.
stuff.
Sure, sure. Once it gets in your blood, it's got to come out too as well, you know. Well, can you remember one of the first concerts, live shows that you attended that you went to?
I remember the very first show I went to. We had just moved to Arlington, and April Wine was
Oh,
playing
oh,
at at the
okay.
University of Texas. The reason we moved to
Yeah.
Arlington is my father was a professor, and he got a job at
Okay.
University of Texas at Arlington. And because
Okay.
of that, he could get tickets to shows. And he didn't know anything about April Wine or anything like that, but they were playing like in the little theater at UTA. And I remember that being my first show. I don't remember a lot
Right.
about it. I mean, I remember the opening band because the opening band was a three-piece and the bass player had half an arm. And so he had like a pick and a mechanism there to where he was playing bass like
Yeah.
that. And I remember
Is
that.
that right? Is that right? Wow. Oh yeah. I've
But
always
again, I was probably 11 years old or so when that happened. I
when
can't
that
remember.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that,
I've,
that
I've
was
been
that was my first experience of live music, like in
yeah,
a
April.
rock sort of setting.
Right. Yeah.
You-
Sad Miles Goodwin, what a couple of years ago now he passed away. I think the lead singer. Yeah. Well, what a band though. Yeah. I've got two or three of their albums. Yeah. Great sound. Great rockers. Yeah. As well. Like I like to rock, speaking of
Yeah, that's right.
right, yeah.
Right. I like the production of that song.
Oh
It's
yeah, and then sign of the and sign of the Gypsy Queen is another one that I really like. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wow, great.
the first like huge rock concert I went to was the Rolling Stones in
Oh,
I think it was 1982 or something, and that was at,
did
at the Cotton Bowl. That was
oh
when I got to like experience, like a full on rock concert.
wow. We'll talk about some other early musical influences for you.
I mean, it's so broad, I mean, because I didn't start, till I was 17. It prior to that, I was just listening to everything, that was out there, you know. So it's pretty broad. I would say now into as I started getting into adulthood in like my early 20s and stuff, that's when I found the Beatles. So I
Okay.
I knew of the Beatles when I was younger because obviously they're played all over the place. but I didn't understand them musically until I was in my 20s. And when I did, since then, I've been a huge Beatles fan. I mean, to me, they're the Da Vinci's of rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. I was late to getting into the Beatles as well. So I think at first it was kind of a rebellious streak in me. It was like, well, they're too big, you know. I want to get into somebody that's not so huge, you know, not so popular. And then eventually it just kind of started creeping in, you know, seeping into my, you know, life. And I couldn't avoid it anymore. You know, it's, you know, great band all the way around, top notch songwriting, songs, everything. So,
And production,
and
everything. It
right,
was like the perfect rock and roll storm.
right,
I mean,
exactly.
from every
Nothing,
aspect, from management to
yeah,
production to
yeah,
just the timing,
yeah,
everything worked.
yeah,
And they
yeah,
were one of the few sort of what you might consider a boy band or something these days. They were one of the few that actually had integrity and quality, so they
right,
were able to carry it on,
exactly,
because of that quality.
right.
I mean, even today, we're talking about what is 2025, they're incredible.
Yes. Well
Huge.
said, well
So,
said.
so in my adulthood, they're a huge influence.
Yes. Well, was your first band October 8th?
October 8th was the first like real band. It was the first band I sang with.
Okay.
Um, I had gone around with various bands, trying to find musicians. In 17, I was just playing guitar. So I was looking for a singer, and I looked for a singers are the hardest thing to find. I mean, like a rock and roll singer, you know.
Yeah.
And I just for a few years I just couldn't find one. I just playing guitar, and then I saw that ad in Buddy magazine uh, that we were talking about. I'm not sure if you were recording at that time, but
No, I
so,
wasn't. No.
yeah. So in Buddy magazine there was an ad in back looking for a singer for an alternative band, you know. And I answered the ad, and it was October 8th. And I auditioned for him, and we, ended up becoming a band.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
was that was my that was my first experience of actually being in a band that I believed in, that I could do it. It also made me find my voice. I mean, when I was singing with October 8th, I was like, wow, I'm actually a singer. And I had no idea. But I
yeah,
and the feeling I would get from just singing and not having to worry about play guitar or anything, to me was very spiritual, very it was it. It's like this is what
right,
I'm supposed to be doing, you know.
right, right. I've never been a musician, but I've told several I talked to, I think it would be hard for me to do do more than one thing, either, you know, sing and play guitar or sing and play another instrument, because it would be hard to, I would need to focus on one or the other, you know. But I know a lot of do it, you know, it becomes second nature for them. But yeah,
Yeah,
that,
I prefer to just do one thing at a time.
yeah,
I can play, and I do play acoustically where I play the guitar and sing, but
yeah,
my preference is to just sing without anything in
yeah,
my, because it takes away problems.
yeah.
It's like
Right,
you're trying to
right,
sing and play guitar, all of a sudden a string breaks or something goes out of tune.
right,
It's like, how do I deal with this? And it just all of a sudden you can't focus on the music.
right.
And so
Yes,
I don't like that. And that's where I think Bill Hitri and I, William
yeah,
P.
yeah,
That's, I think, one of the reasons we got along so well, because he's got a big ego, big guitar player and stuff. So he was happy for me not to play guitar. And that's what I wanted, because I
okay,
had been a guitar player. So like management and label, Bruce, why don't you play guitar? Why don't you play some more guitar? And it's like I want to just focus on singing.
yeah. Well, with October 8th, there was a mini album released in '87. Uh, what have the guys gone on to do? Have they been in any other bands or musically
Well,
from?
Bill was the guitar player for Pop Poppins. William P. was the guitar player on October 8th. That's how we first met.
Okay, through October 8th.
The bass player Brian Jamale is on now. I think he does real estate and things like that, and some music, you know. Brian, the drummer, I'm not sure where he is. He lived in
Okay,
Chicago at the time. They October 8th was a TCU Fort Worth band.
Oh,
You
all
know,
right.
so the
All right.
two Brians, the drummer and the bass player, went to TCU, but they didn't live in Fort Worth. So it was like their final year of college is when October 8th started. So they ended up graduating and had to go home and make a decision. Do we keep the band together or do they just go home? Everybody decided to go home.
Okay.
Or not
Does October?
not everybody, but
Yeah.
the drummer and guitar player didn't get along very well. So I
Okay.
think that was the factor.
Oh, does October 8th have any meaning? Yeah.
It for Brian's story, Brian Jamail, the bass player, was the one that came up with the name. His story was that he went U2 was playing in Austin before they were big.
Oh, you
And
too.
so
Okay.
so Brian was hanging out with Bono at the swimming pool because Brian knew who they were. And Bono said, I think you should name a band on the date that you form, I think was it. So for them, it was October 8th. And October 8th had been around a year before I joined, right? So that they were looking for a singer. So they had been around for a year. And when I answered the ad, it was on October 8th.
Okay. All right.
And so I was like, I can't
It's
change because I would have wanted to change the name, but
okay. It's
I think
stuck. Yeah.
too, too coincidental.
Right. Right. You had to go with it.
So we
Well,
kept October 8th, and that's how
okay.
it.
That's fascinating because I thought of you too, October. I thought of that. But sure enough, as I assumed that, I would be wrong. So I was glad I asked you. Well, next was a conspiracy of equals with a cassette only release in '88.
Yeah. So after October 8th broke up, me and my friend Wes Sutton, who I did a bunch of stuff with as a drummer, we used to mess around and do 4-track recordings and stuff, started a conspiracy of equals, uh, which was essentially kind of my solo stuff. And we just recorded for a day in Arlington, did some shows and things like that. But it wasn't my ideal situation because I was having to play guitar
All right.
and sing. So we were just a three-piece. So I was having to play guitar and sing. So it wasn't my ideal situation. So after that, I ended up going to UT in Austin. I just said, I'm just going to go to Austin. Went to, met with a bunch of musicians, as many as I could, played open mics and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk about the formation of Pop Poppins.
Well, Bill kept calling me when I was in Austin from Fort Worth. Man, you got to come back up. We need a singer. And he had started a band called the Haunted Generation. Okay. And that's where Michael Jerome was the drummer and Mark Hitri was the bass player. And Bill just kept calling me for about a year. You got to come up. And so after a year of being in Austin, I said, okay, and went up and I said, we have to change the name to something. And I thought of Pop Poppins
Okay. Well,
because
how did,
I wanted it to be a fresh start,
right.
if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, it does. It does. Well, how did the songs come together? Did you write the lyrics mostly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, Bill would occasionally might give in a line or something, but they already had some songs since Haunted Generation was around for a year. They had already had like 10 songs or something. And I just rewrote the vocal parts and the vocal melody and the vocal words to suit me. And so that's kind of how that part started. As I went along, as I was saying, I just wanted to sing,
Yeah.
so I was relying on them to come up with music and then just give me the music and I'll come up with words and melody and stuff.
Okay.
It was a very common thing sort of at the time. I mean, it's very similar to like REM and the Smiths and U2, to where the band kind of comes up with the music and the singer just puts something on top of it, which is what I did and yeah, what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah. Well, how did the band become active in the Deep Ellum scene?
Michael and Mark were still in high school, uh, and we were in Saginaw, which is North Fort Worth. Deep Ellum was the place to go. It was that was just the place to go. Everybody in the Metroplex knew it. And so we tried and we went down. We tried to play an open mic, like at Club Dada, at Dave's Art Pawn
Yeah.
Shop, just to get our foot in the door. And they wouldn't let Michael and Mark in the clubs because they were still in high school.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Michael
okay.
Mark was still like 16, 17 years old. Bill and I were like 6 years older. Uh, so Bill and I just started doing acoustic shows in together, the two of us. And that's what got our foot in the door in Deep Ellum.
All right. Well, what other venues did you play in Deep Ellum?
Well, I probably played them all to
Okay.
uh I had my favorites based on the soundmen, and it
Okay.
got to a point of being in Deep Ellum, I would only play so I would play Trees, because they had James McWilliams, who's a great sound man. I would agree to play Club Dada because, they had Carlos and Wayne Green, two great sound men. I would play Club Clearview if Arthur was doing sound, another great sound man. So that was actually the dictating point for where I agreed to play, was how the sound was.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
and then Trees eventually sort of became Curtain Club, so I played Curtain Club a bunch. Uh, in but it's mainly those venues.
Yeah. 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 Trees. I've seen quite a lot of great shows there over the years. Yeah. What a venue. Nice venue. Well, do you have any recollections? Any favorite live shows?
Not really.
Yeah.
That like
Okay.
spark my. I
All
mean,
right. All right.
I mean, some of the bigger shows are memorable. Like we played Starplex, in front of 20,000 people or whatever. That was pretty memorable. And there ended up being a mob coming to the stage, and but
Oh, okay.
that's another story in itself.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I mean, I was playing so much, between Pop Poppins and solo shows that it's kind of hard to remember any specific thing. I lived in Deep Ellum, so I was the call to guy when opening bands didn't show up because I lived in Deep Ellum. So I'd get calls from like 462 Entertainment. Look, they had a flat tire. They can't make it, and they would call me and I could just walk over in 10 minutes and do an opening set. So I had things like that. I was always consistently doing my solo stuff at the same time, you know, because I had a bunch of songs that weren't for Pop Poppins, that just didn't fit. And so
Yeah.
I would play them. We ended up doing open mics like at the Liquid Lounge, which was the front room of the Curtain
Right.
Club. We
Yeah.
called it Art and Chaos, and it was just an open mic every Wednesday night. A lot of local musicians coming around and stuff.
Okay. Okay. Did you open for any bigger bands or on the same bill as other other notable bands?
Yeah, now some memorable moments are coming up.
Okay.
um, there was one show where 462 called me and said it was for Robert Earl Keen, the country songwriter Robert Earl Keen, and it was like Deep Ellum Live, so 1,000 people, and they called me, 10 minutes, Bruce, can you come show up? They couldn't, whatever. So, and I had like green hair at the time and dressed all weird and just got out of bed, whatever. And so I go up with my acoustic guitar just to do a quick set, to fill it. And there's all these cowboys, with their gold buckles and starched shirts looking up saying, what the fuck is this? Kind of thing. And they start chanting, Robert Earl Kane, Robert Earl Kane. It's like 1,000 cowboys, looking at me, and I'm playing. And so I start with Hank Williams song going, You're cheating hard. Well, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden they all went quiet and they start, so
They
that
like that, did they?
so I remember that. So that was pretty odd circumstance.
Yeah.
I opened up for Steve Earle, which was another sort of kind of bizarre thing. And I had met Steve in Nashville when Pop Poppins played Nashville like a year before. And I was going to go meet with him, but his door had duct tape on the outside. to prevent people from bothering him. Another weird one was I opened up for Zakk Wylde
Oh,
at Trees acoustically. Same sort of situation. They needed an opening act, and they asked me, and I went and played. And I wasn't really aware of Zakk Wylde, but he was Ozzy Osbourne's guitar player and stuff like that. And he was just doing, I guess, solo sets. So that was interesting.
yeah. Well, I told you before we started, John, my brother, really followed Pop Poppins more than I did. So he contributed a lot of these questions. But he tells me he saw the band play at Bill's Records, remember?
Oh
And,
yeah,
and then also at Borders. You guys
yeah.
played at Borders. Yeah, yeah. So he remembers those those
Those would have been
those
like
days.
album release sort of things, probably. But yeah, I remember Bill was great. He was another helpful guy to get in because with the October 8th album, for example, it's a 1987. We couldn't get in any record stores, you know, but Bill was
Yeah,
willing to sell our stuff, which
right,
to us was a huge thing at the time.
right. He helped a lot of local artists
Yeah,
too.
he
Yeah,
did a lot,
you know,
ton.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
major part.
I used to go there shopping a few times. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, several songs from the first album, 1990's "The Other Lover," "Silence on Top of a Building," "Sending a Lovely Letter," and "Be Patient," were re-recorded and ended up on later albums.
Hmm.
Uh, what was that? You weren't really pleased with the originals?
Well, again, we were really, really young.
Okay.
We didn't know it was happening. The other lover and the lover were recorded on cassette in a house on a pool table. You know,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Gary Burkhart was the one that sort of produced it and engineered it. And so when we got signed to Carpe Diem Records, uh, we just figured that we might as well do these in a real studio with real product, what we think is real production, instead of on a pool table and me singing in the bathroom, you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's
Okay. well, well,
and that's
there
fine.
might.
And I guess I should also say because of lack of material,
Oh,
that's
okay.
probably
Okay.
another factor that nobody really talks about. But that was probably one issue as well. We only had a certain amount of songs, and
All right.
but
Well, I do like, I've listened, I do like the re-recordings better. And I think my brother would agree with those. The production quality really improved on the second album, Delight and Disorder from '91. Talk about the difference in the recording process.
well, that was the first one where we recorded in an actual studio. I mean, like a world-renowned studio, which was Summit Burnett, I think, in Dallas. So
Dallas.
and bands like the Rolling Stones and stuff had recorded there. So to us, it was a huge deal, and we had 4 days to record, uh, and so that was special
Was,
all around, just for that
was
experience.
it was it a little intimidating being in a studio for the first time?
I don't know. I just thought it was fun,
Okay.
really.
All right. Yeah.
I was
I like
anxious. I was like, this is great.
yeah, yeah, right, right.
I was
I like to ask that question a lot. Musicians will say, "Yeah, it's like being a kid in a toy shop. All the little extra instruments and things and little knobs to play with and things like that." So, how interesting. Well, "Be Patient," mentioned earlier, definitely should have been a hit if it wasn't. Great track.
thanks. Yeah.
Is that one that you guys played live quite a bit?
Yeah, yeah. We would play that live. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's a difficult song to sing, because there's quite a bit of range in there. And we play we did a show a couple months ago in Fort Worth. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh no,
Um,
no, I wasn't aware of that. So
yeah,
so you flew back here. Okay, okay,
yeah. I've
okay.
actually flown. I've had 3 trips to Texas in the last few months.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, and Pop Poppins played a show uh, in Fort Worth. and we that was on the list, and I was like, I'm not sure if I can sing it, you know, because it's not like I go around singing "Be Patient," at full volume, for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And so, but
Well,
I did
yeah.
it.
Well, we talked before we started about the resurgence of interest in the band. Yeah. It just got dark. Did you notice that? Just got darker, darker. Uh,
Yeah, the
your mic.
TV, but I had it
Oh,
on
okay.
the splash
Yeah.
screen. I'm sitting in front of, I have a big screen TV on the other side of this.
Oh, oh, okay. That's where that's coming from.
That's
Okay.
what's giving some of the
The
light.
okay.
But it
The
just went. Go ahead,
all right.
continue.
Yeah, yeah. There definitely has been a resurgence of interest in the band. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. People catching on. People realizing stuff.
Well,
Maybe I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Could
yeah.
be
Well,
could
I'll
be
have
any.
to tell. Yeah.
Could
How
be.
about any future plans to play here?
I mean, if it happens, it happens. I don't plan that much about it, but and that was kind of my attitude uh, a few months ago when we did the show. I mean, people had heard that I was in Texas, and so Mark, the bass player, arranged a show, and so that made it very easy for me. I didn't have to do any of the organization or anything. The focus was just relearning the songs and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I'll tell my brother. Well, he'll watch this too, but to keep an eye and ear out for any more upcoming shows. Uh,
If,
well,
if,
uh,
if we did, like, I probably won't be back to Texas until June. So that's what, about 6 months.
okay,
So if,
okay.
if, it
In the
does,
summer,
if it does happen, it would be then.
he'll be in the summertime. Okay. Well, also from that album, "A Certain Person," another great track there.
Thanks.
And then "Bridges and Towers." We like the melancholy feel on that one. Yeah, yeah. Well, well, the band released a 5-song EP, "The Epitome of Simplicity."
Mhm.
Why an EP release and not just include the tracks on the next full album?
Well, that was a circumstance where we recorded in Austin
Okay.
with Charles Reeves, Chicky, he goes by. Uh, and so we could only do it after hours. So when the studio closed, so we were actually kind of sneaking in to do the album. So we only had a certain amount of time, and that was the reason for it being an EP. I think we had like 2 nights, late nights, and we came up with 5 songs. That was kind of it.
You were limited to time in the studio. Okay. Well, the self-titled album from '93, a couple of highlights. "I Want to Be Your Lover" and "Sending a Lovely Letter."
Yeah, and both of those would have been released earlier on those, The Lover and Other Lover.
Yeah.
Uh, that album is the first album we did on our own label. We started our own label, which was Rainmaker Records.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that was the first album that we had where we were in complete control. You know, and same thing with the artwork. Like, I did the artwork on the album cover, and I had complete control, which was good for me because on previous albums I had control, but not complete control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
That's got to.
things changed, and I'd be, really, did it have to change and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So with that album, the Pop Poppins self-titled album or whatever, we had pretty much complete control. I mean, David Costell produced it, and he did a great job. So he had a lot of control as far as the music went, as far as the production of the music went. But anyway, it was our label.
Right. Right. Well, that's got to be a good thing, I think, to have that control over the output and what goes into the album like that.
Yeah, instead of control, maybe creative freedom would
Creative
be
freedom.
would
Yeah.
be a better way of stating it.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, the untitled hidden track. This is from John, my brother. Is that an homage to John Cage, like the ode to John Cage from Too Much TV?
It, well, there The Ode to John Cage, I think, was but anyway, yeah, it's similar. So Storyteller didn't fit on the album, so we said we'll just put it on as bonus track. The silence between that is the same length as Singing in the Rain, which
Okay.
so that silence, so the silence does have sort of a little bit of meaning,
Yeah.
but the reason Storyteller was an added track is because we didn't feel that it went along with the flow of the album.
Okay. All right. Well, tracks from the band would be included on the Tales from the Edge series CDs. And I got those were what George Gamark, right? That
Yeah, yeah. And
produced those.
George Mark, by the way, was you know very incredibly helpful in our career, in my career. I mean, just because he started the Rock and Roll Alternative, which was the radio
Yeah,
station.
yeah,
He
yeah,
he gave access to the Metroplex of new music that
yes,
no other stations were doing, other than maybe KERA, like Liza Richardson and things like that, and KNON. They were doing it, but they were very, to have it in a broad spectrum. George Mark was just a key.
yeah.
He was a game changer. You know.
He was. I tell that story with a lot of the UK musicians I talk to. I say that's how I found out about a lot of that music from the UK. Was he would play it
Yeah.
on his show? Yeah, and then I go out
But
and buy.
not only that, he was playing local music,
Yeah, and he was also playing exactly.
which at the time in the Metroplex was unheard of on a
Right,
major radio station. You know,
right,
and
exactly. So
that was the one that would bring in people to the festivals and Deep Ellum and all that stuff. He was a huge, huge factor. You
yeah,
know.
yes, he was. So I followed that. I remember back in '83 is when I was really into that. And I would sit there with my cassette recorder and record the songs that I liked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just to do that a lot. Well, well, 1997's non-pop specific. Uh, this one almost slipped under the radar. Uh, Again, John's 18-year-old son was playing for him. I don't mind. And John said, "That sounds like Pop Poppins, could it be?" And, come to find out, yeah, it was.
That was one of Bill's songs. Yeah,
Oh, is that
and Bill sings on it. I mean,
okay?
I'll just William P. I'll just refer to him as Bill.
Okay, okay. Well,
Yeah,
well,
that was one of his songs. I played guitar in it, and he sang.
okay,
He played guitar in it as well, but you know,
yeah.
and
Well,
that was
my
one of the songs I didn't mind playing guitar on because I'm not singing.
right,
So I
right.
just focus on guitar.
You could focus on the guitar, right? Yeah,
And fine.
yeah. Well, I'll add here one of the band's most powerful tracks, uh, and also a couple more from that album, non pop specific. "Don't Fall Apart" and "Blind Love" are also top tracks.
I think it's a great album
Yeah.
that never, I wish we could have spent more time on it. It was another one of those quick few day recording sessions.
Yeah.
I can listen back to it now, and there's things that could have been added, but I think it's a great album.
Yeah.
And that was David Rosenblatt, I think, uh, who actually, you were talking about Delight and Disorder earlier.
Yeah.
David Rosenblatt, and it was a big factor in that production.
What was he? Okay. All right.
And
You
so
can hear
then
it.
we worked with them again on non-pop specific.
Okay. All right. Hear his influence on that. Well, Too Much TV. Is that a solo project?
It started as a solo project, and then I was actually doing it at the same time as non-pop specific.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
that's why it also helped that Bill was doing songs, because it
Okay.
took a little bit of pressure off me. And I started the Too Much TV album as a solo, another solo album, but I had a bunch of guest musicians on it. And because I had a bunch of guest musicians on it, I didn't feel comfortable calling it a solo album. So I just I had too much. Since the '80s, I'd been wanting to use Too Much TV as a band name, and that was just that was the opportunity to do it. But they were my songs and stuff like that. But I mean, it was a weird scenario at the beginning of Too Much TV. because
How so?
there was label interest and things like that, but there was no band, because
Oh,
it essentially was a solo album. So I found some of my musician friends that are great musicians and great friends. We sort of brought together this group. I remember label, I think it was Reprise, wanted to see us and there was no band. And so the label was acting like we need to make it like it's a band, sort of. It was just a bunch of weirdness. And it was the same thing that I was having to play guitar and sing, which I didn't want to do, you know. I just wanted to sing. And
right,
so that's how
right.
that came.
That's how. Well, yeah. 97 released Too Much Is Not Enough. Again, this one flew under the radar and it's hard to find. Uh, couple of top tracks. Forget
Yeah, and
about.
we ended up playing a lot of shows. We played it again. We played on the Pop Poppins bill a few months ago. We had a show, Too Much TV. But again, great musicians. I mean, like Owen Kinzer, John Scully, Max Hartman, unbelievable musicians and great people as well, you know. So we've always kept in touch. We do certain things. That's another thing. When I was in Texas a couple months ago, I was hoping we could get some recording done, but it didn't pan out that way. But we'll get back into it.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good. So that door is open. Okay. Well, yeah, a couple of tracks off of that. Forget about that and the powerful ride that are nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you pretty pleased
Yeah,
with
I'm pleased with that whole album.
okay.
And just
Okay.
as a whole, as a whole, you know.
All
But
right.
most of my solo albums are intended to be listened to, if that makes any
Right.
sense. Like, sort of from start to finish in a
Yeah,
way.
right.
And I think that succeeds. And I think as an individualist succeeds, in doing that.
Well, for viewers who have not heard of Saginaw, where is it
Mhm.
located? Where is Saginaw?
It's North Fort Worth.
Okay. Okay.
It's a great
Why?
area. I think they have like the highest elevator grains in the world or something. Grain elevator. Highest
uh,
trains come through, pick up the grain, and then carry on. That's
that's what they're known for. Okay. How fascinating. Well, you lived there for 10 years, beginning at the advent of the new.
I lived in Splendora for 10 years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Saginaw is where the Hitris lived.
Okay. I got that confused there. I got that wrong. Okay. Splendora. Where is Splendora? Where is Splendora?
Splendora is near Houston. It's near the Gulf. It's
Okay.
northeast of
Down.
Houston, about an hour or so, in the piney
Okay.
woods, lots of tall pine trees.
All right. So that's where you relocated. Okay. Splendora. All
Yeah, I went
right.
there and had a couple kids. I built a little art studio and kept doing music and art in my studio while we raised the kids. I mean,
Okay.
for me, I had to get out of Deep Ellum, because Pop Poppins were all doing different things. Michael, I think, had moved to LA and he was playing with Course of Empire and different bands and stuff like that, to where we were sort of fizzling apart doing different things. So I wanted to leave Deep Ellum because every show that I would do, even if it was too much TV or solo, everybody was affiliating me with Pop Poppins,
Yeah.
and I want that. I was
Right.
like, I'm doing this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for that reason, I couldn't get away from it unless I left. And so I left. I moved to New York for a year and then moved to Splendora, where Sabrina and I had kids. And
Okay.
so I kind of was a house dad, raised the kids, and also did my art and music at night after they would go to sleep, you know. So I
Okay.
continued doing the thing. I Yeah.
Well, that's yeah. I had that in the. I did have that correct in the intro, Splendor, and then I got it confused with Saginaw there
Yeah.
later. Okay. Well,
They're
well,
similar sort of place.
they both start with. Hey, give me
Yes.
some credit. They start with S, right? Uh, well, why the move to Bath, England?
After living in Splendora 10 years, I there's a lot of different reasons, you know. But one of them was I wanted to experience Europe, right? Without having to learn a new language.
Okay. Yeah.
So Britain was pretty much the place. Um, and I also wanted to get my master's degree. Since I had the kids, I was thinking, maybe I can teach. In the States, you can't really teach art without an MFA.
Right.
So I wanted to get an MFA. So two different reasons to go there. Then Remy and Darby ended up moving with their mother to France. So because they're in France, being in England allowed me to be closer to them, immediately closer. So like if anything happened, I can be there in a few hours, to whereas if I live in Texas, it's going to be 2 days, before I.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
so that was a reason for doing it. Plus, I love Bath. I think it's a beautiful city. I didn't know anybody when I came here, which was kind of bizarre. The reason I chose Bath really was because Charles, who produced my solo stuff, was living in London, and he visited Bath and said, "Bruce, you got to go to Bath. You'd love it."
Yeah.
He knew me well enough to know that I would,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
did. I do, and I love Bath. I think it's an incredible city with
Yeah.
great people.
Right. There's a lot of nice architecture there from, just from pictures I've seen, you know.
Yeah, a lot of it's Georgian from like 1700s and stuff.
Yeah.
But the history goes back thousands of years. So they have the Roman baths, which the Romans used to come to Bath. That's why it's called Bath, pretty much. They used to come for holiday, and springs, hot springs, things like that. So that's 2,000 years ago. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's that much history from then to
Right.
now.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm envious of. Like us, being here in Texas, or the US, we have limited history, but you go to Europe and other
Yeah.
countries and it goes way back. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah.
And
Wow.
and a lot of people retire here, because
Yeah.
because of that history. It gives them something to do. Okay, we can, for the next few months, we'll just go and talk about the year, 800 AD in
Yes.
Bath and what it was like, and go walk around. And I mean, they have parts of the medieval wall in Bath, and stuff that you can still see sticking out, and it's pretty amazing.
Yes, yes. So you've settled in there. You've been there for quite a while now. Yeah, and making some friends. I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have a lot of different circles. I have my art circle, I have my music circle, I have my tennis circle, I have my soccer circle, you know, of friends. And Bath is actually a pretty small town
Yeah.
as far as residents go. So if you do something in Bath, somebody's going to know about it.
Right, right. What is the closest big city? Bristol? Is that? Yeah.
Bristol, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
About the closest. Okay. Right.
That's
Yeah.
about
You're.
10 miles
Yeah.
away.
Okay.
10
Okay.
miles, but it takes 45 minutes to get there.
Okay. Well, since you've been there, have you run into many Pop Poppins fans?
No,
No.
none.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's not true, none. But when I came here, nobody had any idea about my life and my past, which I
Okay.
liked, you know. But then over time, people start figuring out actually what I do, and they start hearing stuff. So in that way, I have a lot of fans in Bath. But it's not that people come up to me and say, "Hey, you're in Pop."
Right.
That
Yeah.
hasn't happened here.
Yeah. Right.
And I
Right.
like and I like that. That's the way
Yeah.
I want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm sure you still hear through emails and your website from older fans back here in the States or Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Still hear from them. Wow. Well, talking about your artwork, how about recall some of the exhibitions where you've displayed your wares?
Well, I mean, I've done it. That's what my education is in art, and I've been an artist my whole adult life. So I've thousands of shows, thousands of artworks. So it's hard to sort of pick something out
Yeah.
and again, I do this every day. That's what I do, so lots and lots of artwork.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
be to be more specific would be better, like to ask
Yeah.
me what
Well,
particular project.
Well, how about have you displayed in any other countries other than the UK?
Yeah, I've displayed in Germany, Ireland, I think. I mean, I'd have to go back and think about it. But yeah, yeah, a few, you know. It's not, I don't, it's not something I think about, if that makes much sense, or dwell on or anything like that. I mean, for me, it's the creation part. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Well, when did you create 44 AD Artspace? When did that start?
I didn't create that. My
Okay,
partner,
okay.
Katie O'Brien, they use the word partner here. My
Yeah.
my girlfriend. Now I feel uncomfortable saying girlfriend. Lady friend, I say lady friend or girl.
Yeah.
But she's the one. Katie's the one that started 44 AD, and
Oh,
she still is the director and runs it. It's community art space, so it's very helps the community. It's not like one of those private galleries, that only represent five artists. It's different shows every week, you know. And but anyway,
is that when I read that 44 AD, I think of 4 AD. Was that a nod to
that's
4
right.
AD?
That's what I told her when she came up with the
Oh,
name. I said, "Are you aware that there's a
yeah,
4AD album record
right.
label?"
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't care,"
No.
"Oh, I'm just letting you know, in case you're asking a question."
Right.
44 AD, she has her reasons for calling it that, but it has to do with Bath, the
Okay.
history of Bath. So
Okay.
Bath actually became like a city or something like in 44 AD. That's
Uh,
what I use to describe it. But for her, it also has to do with some, saints and stuff. And I don't know,
yeah.
some churches that are in
Something
Bath that are around for 2000. I don't know.
that happened back in
Ask
44
her.
AD.
Ask her.
Okay. Well, and you're still creating music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's what I do. I mean, uh, yeah, I'm in the middle of sessions now. I started a session over the summer, and then I had these Texas trips,
Yeah.
so it kind of was put on pause for a second. And so those sessions are going to start again in January. But
Okay.
I do stuff here, and that's where I am. I'm in the music room in
Okay. Do
my part.
you find a balance between your art and creating music?
I wouldn't say a balance, but I just go with the flow, really. Uh, and they incorporate, at times, to where they complement each other. I'll do a show. I did a show of paintings where I wrote music for the paintings. So you put headphones on and that. I mean, it goes on and on. It's very complicated. Again, this is where specific questions would be better.
Yeah.
Because then
Well,
because
yeah.
I could go on for weeks talking about just one project. You know,
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll
uh,
we'll talk about one of your favorite projects and
we can. Well, no, we can. So we'll go back to when I moved to Splendora,
yeah,
which and I was working on my own stuff. That's where sort of my solo career became the focus. You know,
right.
and so I ended up recording a couple albums. Into like psychomatic static. You know, psychosomatic static. I recorded on using just a garage band. So a friend of mine worked for Apple and gave me an early copy of GarageBand. And I was like, this is great. Finally, Apple's come out with something that, people can use. And so I recorded all of Psychosomatic Static using GarageBand. That was the thing. And then I wanted to do the same songs in a professional studio with a professional producer and stuff like that and just compare them.
Right.
I wanted to release it
Okay.
as a double album. Whatever.
Okay.
So I met with Chicky and I flew out to London and we started recording the same songs. I couldn't afford to stay as long as I wanted to, so we only had 5 songs I think that we completed, which became London Static. And so that was the reason for doing those. Then as the years went on, I mean, I was still working on songs. I would release a single here and there and doing my artwork and painting. And then in Bath, now it's just sort of the same thing. But the thing is now the kids are grown up and they're living on their own. So now I'm back in the mode of just complete focus, you know.
Okay. Well, what do you any works in progress?
Yeah, well, as I said,
Yeah.
the recording that I'm doing, I released some stuff earlier this year. Uh, I released uh, Tinnitus's Left Ear, which is
Okay.
a thing. I have tinnitus, which most musicians I'm sure do. And
Yeah.
I just one day I wanted to duplicate it, you know, the sounds that were coming out of my the tinnitus, which I did, recorded it, released it, so you can hear that now. That was earlier this year, um, and it's an interesting track because if you listen to it very very slowly or slowly, lowly,
Slowly.
uh,
Yeah.
you can actually it's that accurate. You can actually experience the same tinnitus that I'm experiencing,
Oh,
and
is that right? Okay.
yes, and so for me, if I put it in my right ear, it's like I'm hearing the tinnitus in stereo. It's a
Oh,
But anyway, so that
okay.
I did earlier this year. I released an album with Darby where Darby was singing. I did a cover with Remy of ZZ Top's "Just Got Paid," which was fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be fun.
That was released earlier this year. Uh,
Okay.
Pop Poppins had their compilation that was released last year, to where we all chose what songs were going to be played on each side. Uh,
Okay.
my choices, I didn't really get my choices, but
Well, you had your yeah, band had their input into that. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. So, anything else that you'd like to mention in closing, or that we may have overlooked, or that you'd like to maybe plug or make the viewers aware?
not that I can really think of. I mean, I'm off social media now.
Okay.
I That's one of my warpath things for this year. So
Yeah.
I'm off. I still have my website. I do social media on 2cents, which is the number two,
Okay.
CENTS, which doesn't show advertisements. So I do post to that occasionally.
Okay.
Uh, I took a lot of my music off of the internet earlier this year out of protest, but some of it can be heard on starfarm.com, which is for artists and it uses blockchain. So the artists actually get paid for their plays.
Oh,
And it,
okay.
and it can be
Uh,
documented because
well,
it's
that
on, it's
that would
using
be
it.
nice. I hope that catches fire. I hope more
It
artists go
should.
to that. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
technology wise, it will catch fire. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Star Farm will get the credit.
Start from. Wow. Well, I'm going to mention that in the future interviews with other artists that like to get a little more, money coming in, or possibly, because with the
Yeah,
streaming these days, it's,
it's
nearly,
horrible.
yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. All right.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry if you want to
No,
stop. Sorry.
no, no.
I was just
That's
going to point out that like during lockdown, I don't usually look at plays that I've had, but
yeah,
BMI sent me some stuff, and I had over 1 million streams of songs that
yeah,
I had written. This was for a quarter, 3
yeah.
months. Or whatever. I had over 1 million streams, and all I got paid was $500.
Right,
For
right.
1 million streams.
Yeah,
If that would have been 1995 or something, it would have been $100,000.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that just kind of puts it in context of how musicians are really getting screwed.
Yeah, completely, completely. It's all backwards to me anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, I will send you a copy of this probably next week this time. And then you can post it. I know you're not big on social media, but wherever you'd like to, or email
Thanks.
the link out to people, or and it'll be on my channel as
Thanks.
well. But I want to thank you again for your time, and all the best to you. Okay, Bruce?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Same to you. Yeah.
Oh,
Say
all
hi to
right.
your brother for me.
Okay, I will. Believe me, I will. All right. Bye bye for now.